Hey guys, welcome back, man. It's Wednesday, man. You know that means it's time for another midweek motivation and advice video. You guys saw the title. Today is the second video in what's shaping up to be a series here, man. Last week we talked about the true cost of change. Today we're talking about the mentality of change, right? And what it really takes to affect that change in your life for the better. In any case, I'm trying to take a different stab at it, right? And this time, I'd like to talk about some of the things that I do. Look what I have to do! To keep myself motivated and how I manage to maintain and not go back to being massively fat and incapacitated, man. So I've been doing this thing for almost 3 years now, right? And 3 years is a long time to be doing any damn thing, but especially losing weight and then keeping it off, man. You know, I've talked about this multiple times, right? It's not due strictly to motivation, right? I mean, motivation is a waning thing. It comes and goes, man. And discipline can be relied on to a certain extent, but you really have to wrap your mind around things and kind of change your total philosophy on life to get through something like this and to keep it going for any real length of time. And this is obviously coming from the standpoint of weight loss, but really has to do with any kind of change in your life for the positive, and really with any goal in mind. You kind of have to do these things, right? So one of the things that I kind of quickly picked up on as I was making my change this time was the need to really change my outlook on everything in life, right? So what I decided very quickly was I would try to like put myself against the wall, right? And put my back up against the wall so that there was no place for me to kind of maneuver out of it this time, right? So you see, in the past I had tried to lose weight, but there was always a lot of room for maneuverability because I didn't really link myself to any kind of accountability aside from just me, really. And I had been letting myself down for the better part of a decade at that point in time anyway. So it wasn't a big deal to just let myself down again, right? Whatever. I didn't do it that time, whatever, right? But this time I decided I'll put myself against the wall, making this channel, being accountable to many people as I possibly could be, so that there was some real consequence to failure this time, right? And in putting myself against the wall, right, there was no real way to go backward, right? The only way forward was forward through the adversity of the weight loss and everything else, right?
But it's up against this motherfucker because it's what I believe in. And when my back is against this motherfucker, then there's nowhere to go but that way. That's it.
Through that transformative stage as I'm moving my way through the weight loss, right? If you guys have seen some of my earlier videos, you'll notice this transition as well in my mental state. I started to realize that this wasn't an optional thing anymore, right? This was something that became mandatory, right? And because of that, I started treating it almost as if it was a second career, a second job, right? So as I was getting up in the morning, right, it started to become less and less a thing that I could, you know, not do, and more a thing that became mandatory, right? So kind of like you wake up and you know you got to go to work that day, right? If it's a weekday, you know you're getting up, you got to go shower, get ready, and you got to go to work that day, right? It's not really an option not to. You have to do it, right? And that's what this kind of became, right? I would wake up and it was something that I knew I ended up having to do. I got to get up, I got to go do my activity, I got to go to the gym, I got to do the things necessary to be successful, right? You know, I started to get, you know, only stock the foods in my house that I knew I could eat. And I've talked about this strategy multiple times. I only stocked the things that I knew I could eat and in the amount that I knew I could eat them in, and just in that amount, right? So that if I became overly hungry and I started to eat more than I should be eating that day, then what I was actually doing was eating into the next day. And pretty soon I would find myself out of food because I only bought food necessary for a few days at a time, right? So that I really couldn't afford to make decisions that were bad for me, right? And so it's little things like that. It's little mental tricks you have to do to yourself and things like that day to day that really keep you going. It was really what was responsible for my overall weight loss of over 220 pounds, man, over a 2-year period of time. Now, that didn't just stop as I moved into maintenance, right? And you can't stop either once you reach your preliminary goal, right? Especially if it's not your ultimate goal, which for me is to keep the weight off forever, right? So this mentality of my back against the wall, I never let myself get away from that. I just kept moving that wall up as I moved forward through my transition. Of course, all of this is a mental thing, right? It's a mental picture I've set up for myself, right? With my back against the wall. Also, something mental is treating this like a job. Now, I know that sounds kind of depressing, right? Because a lot of us have jobs we don't really particularly like going to. So equating anything you want to do with a second job can be something that you can look at as negative, but it's not really from that aspect that you should be looking at this. It's from the aspect of making yourself feel emotionally attached to this thing you're trying to do in a way that doesn't give you an option to wiggle out of it, right? Hence the back against the wall, hence the secondary job type of thing, right? Now, I accomplished that through accountability. You can accomplish that any number of different ways, but the thing that's important to understand here is that motivation is extraordinarily waning, and discipline will only take you so far before you just have to rely on pure grit, right? Before you have to rely on the mental tricks you've set up for yourself so that you've created enough stumbling blocks that getting out of that groove of whatever you're looking for me, health and fitness, would mean stumbling over so many blocks that it would just be, it's just easier for you to continue down the path that will lead you to success than it is to stray from it. And that's the real benefit here. And that's the kind of mentality you have to set up for yourself. You've almost got to trick yourself into this better you until it becomes something that is autopilot, right? It's more than just habit forming. It's something that becomes a way of life to the point that you just by default fall into it, right? So do I still want to eat horrible shit in mass quantities? Yeah, that gets me from time to time, right? But to be quite honest with you, when I do fall off the wagon or something like that, which happened this past July 4th, by the way, you know, the body feels, the way that I feel both emotionally and just physically, it feels so bad that you end up looking forward to, or I end up looking forward to eating healthy again and getting back on the regimen because I feel so much better, and the stumbling blocks are out of the way mentally, that just my mental clarity and my body just works so much better at that point, right? And that's kind of the point you got to get to, man. You got to build these walls around yourself to guide you in the direction you need to go. In any case, guys, that's it for today, man. Like and subscribe. Leave me some comments, man. Let me know what's going on with you guys. And as always, thanks again for watching. And I'll see you later. Bye.